What's going on? It's that day of the week again. This is Jason, aka the dad next door, Daddy's Fast Cash, and the owner of Dad's Pads, and also now dadlabs.tech. You know all that by now, right? So I'm kind of excited today. This guy that you're going to see next, my man Patrick, he's going to talk about how to raise funds for nonprofits, but in a super sexy, excited kind of a fun way. So if that's ever been on your heart or it's something you wanted to learn, this is the episode for you. So I am going to stop talking and get to the good stuff. See you in a second. Be right back.
Fatherhood. It's how we keep our tribes and families strong. You've landed in the right place if you're ready for dad jokes, tips, and tricks on fun parenting. Also with interviews with some of the coolest dad entrepreneurs we could track down and have them share their strategies to tackling it all in business and life on the Dad Next Door. And now, your host, Mr. Dad Jokes himself, Jason Centeno.
Say hi, Nana.
You ain't shy.
They don't show you it in action because things like this.
Oh, fix it. Fix it.
I love Daddy. He's a superhero. I don't know what are you heroes. I know.
Am I a superhero, Patrick? You tell me. Am I? She always asks that question. I got to ask you now.
Yes, and I prepped a dad joke just for this intro, and I will tell it to you now because I'm prepped with a couple of them. Is
go hard. Let's hear it.
I'm gonna go hard out of the gate, which is, what do you call a superhero that's worked out too much?
Never heard this one, so don't know.
Thor.
Nice. That is appropriate. That is the appropriate.
It's appropriate.
This is the appropriate case for anything related to Thor, superheroes, as we're surrounded by them, and Iron Man. Actually, there you go.
Yes,
so I'm all about what you just did. Very sneaky there, Mr. Kirby. So Patrick. So for the people out there, maybe you're just tuning in for the first time. I help dadpreneurs, entrepreneurs, people with big ideas, turn them into a reality through technology. If you got a tech idea, I'm going to come in, work with you. If it's good, develop it. And at the end of this process, you can either go away with knowledge of like something you need to work on about it and then bring it back if you want, or we partner. That's the ultimate goal. Obviously, we're looking for things that are like going to do good in the world, do good better. There you go. We'll steal your line for a minute. But yeah, I wanted to introduce you guys to Patrick because he does something that nobody thinks of as fun or sexy. You might have it in your head as like, I hate to say it, but like begging, like you're begging for money, like, don't bother me, Unfortunately, that's that's the feeling people might get from some of these guys, but you are definitely of a different vein, and your whole way of how you've crafted your personality and your excitement and exuberance about what you do and the good you do for people, like that is what really hooked me on, like, I got to get you on the show. So we're going to ask a few questions. How did you, first of all, how did you become an entrepreneur? Because obviously your full-time fundraising is not like a 9-to-5. Well, it can be a 9-to-5, but like you don't work for some corporation or some bank. You work for yourself. So talk to us about how did that happen?
Great question. First of all, thanks for being to have me on the show. I've been waiting for this for like months. Like you and I talked like literally 3.5 months ago, and I've been jazzed about being on the show forever. So I appreciate you having the formal invite being on. I started this because I, as a professional funder, has been doing this for like 15, 16 years. When I was working at my last big boy job, I was asked to mentor a couple of small and medium-sized nonprofits who didn't know what the hell they were doing, right? So there's no degree you can get. There's no college you can go to that helps you figure out how to fundraise. It's just not. You can be a fundraising manager.
There's no hustle university for this?
No,
like nothing?
No, there's not. So you've got to learn this by just doing it. And most people are, as I like to refer to them, as accidental fundraisers, right? They go to a nonprofit, they're the marketing person, they might be like the whatever, and they're forced to fundraise because either they're growing or like somebody's going to go, hey, Jason, I'm going to need you to go and raise money for this. But like, there's no roadmap, there's no like framework, there's nothing. So you just fly by the seat of your pants. Everybody gets frustrated about it. And I was asked to mentor a couple of groups that were just at that point, right? There's little small groups. They don't have a lot of cash. They don't have a lot of manpower, but they were expected to raise money, or they had to raise money to keep the doors open. And I loved mentoring some of these groups. And I love that light bulb moment where they're like, hey, that actually makes sense. These basics of the basics actually make sense. And so I decided, I'm like, there's got to be a market for somebody to come in and teach them this.
Well, wait,
and there wasn't. Yeah.
What's a basic people would miss? Like an aha moment where you're like, geez, that was right in front of my face, but that you're always like, they're amazed to hear this, but it's the simplest thing. Like, give me like one of those.
Pick up the phone and call. So, and I'm serious. This is like the basics of the basics, right? You have social media, you've got email, and that's an easy way to do it. Like, hey, Jason, thanks for reading this email. Could you donate $50? Or you send a social media post and you just hope somebody sees it. The basics are picking up the phone and saying, hey, Jason, I just wanted to thank you for supporting our organization. You've done wonderful things. We've done amazing things with your gifts in the past. We got another campaign coming up. I think we're going to do amazing things. Would it be in your heart, or would you be willing to support us again at this? You're the only one doing it, A. You're number two, you're thanking them, and you're not telling them you want money. You're telling them a story to say, hey, listen, sit next to me. Let me tell you kind of where we're going to go. And is this something that you'd be interested in joining us with? Right? It's this journey rather than begging. And I love the way that you put this out right away, which is most people think fundraising is begging. And good fundraisers and great fundraisers kind of let you sit next to them and kind of you vision. And you say, listen, imagine what we could do if we had unlimited funds to help these kids or help these animals or these individuals for homelessness or hunger or whatever it is. If we had all of this, we'd eliminate it. Is that something that you'd be interested in? Because I'm really interested in it, right? And you're now inviting them to help you solve a problem rather than just going, please, sir, may I have some more? Right?
But are those cold calls you're talking about? Just pick up the phone, because I'm going to be honest with you. Like, when they cold call me for stuff like this, I'm like, nope. And because I don't have a relationship with them. Now, that's why I asked. Because if you have you only call the people you already have a relationship, correct? Right.
Okay. And really, if you're calling somebody out of the gate, don't ask them for money. If you're cold calling, do not ask them for money. Ask why they support or who they support. Get to know them as a person, for God's sakes. I mean, that's the basics, right?
What if you start with a knock joke and they're like, hello, Mr. Yeah, well, knock. Come on, what knock, and you get them and you tell them a knock joke, and then maybe after they giggle about it, then you try to sell them. Maybe that would work. I don't know. That would probably stop me from hanging up right away, but that's just
I was yeah, actually that would be we're working. I'm going to change a lot of my tactics based on that one statement. I like that going forward. I was told by a mentor of mine once that you never ask for a major gift unless you know the name of your donor's dog. And I loved it because it means you're asking questions and trying to figure out things and learning about them with things that they actually love and they actually care about, rather than the size of their checking account. Because if that's all you care about, people can see through you, right? You know this as a sales guy too, where if you know that somebody's on the other end of the phone and they're only worried about a sale, you can tell right away, right? If they are genuinely interested in you, and they say something like, hey, Jason, tell me a little bit about what organizations that you belong to. I'm curious to say, why do you join some of those? Or I'm curious to see what your family is. And they don't ask you for any money because they're genuinely interested in what you have to say or what to do or kind of how you approach life, so that they can match you up with something that they may do. And if they have nothing to match up with you, they go, hey, we're not a good fit. No worries. Hope you have a great day. That's the difference. And I think that takes the audacity of somebody in the fundraising world to say, I need to look at something different in order to build better relationships, to build the ability to have, larger gifts come at my nonprofit.
So how do you go deep when everybody's trying to go broad or treat you broad? In other words, somebody calling me up, and I get this in social media too. Sometimes they start a conversation. Hey, what's going on? How you doing today? And it's like, all right, here it comes. Like out of nowhere. And I'm like,
yeah,
if it was me, again, I would start with whoever it is that I'm like, maybe the donor, and getting to know them and liking their dog photo, like you said, and just like a whole lot of lead up to like the being a fan part. Like that's something I would say, like be a fan of people you want to actually work with first, instead of trying to go right at them because you feel like they're up here. It's like, go look at what they're doing and like something. I mean, the whole thing for this show, you know, if there's dads on this show and they're, or like I'm on Instagram and I see them, I'm liking their pictures. Why? Because you're a dad and because you got kids like I got kids. And maybe even if you were a competitor, whatever, there's always going to be something in there I could like about you because we got that in common. So that's where it starts. And then maybe there's a collaboration or something like that. But I'm just curious, in the fundraising world, when you're like, you're under a deadline and it's like you don't have these relationships yet, like what's the way, like say Joe Schmo coming in like fresh faced, you know, you're training this person. It's like, okay, what would you be like the top 3 things? You said pick up the phone, but pick up the phone with a condition, meaning like you built that relationship first. How, I guess, what would be some ninja tactics that you might use to start relationships? I'm going to tell you, the audience, what yours is your infectious energy. I alluded to you as a person who was like Mr. Rogers after 2 cans of Red Bull while chewing a 5 gum, because you are kind of that energy. And like, there's no way that if I got a conversation like that was, I'm trying to think if we talked live first or just in a conversation, but once I talked live to you, I think it might've been off a Clubhouse, I forget. But once I talked live to you, it was like, dang, this dude, like, I just got to get him on because he just gives me energy. Right. So that is your superpower from where I'm standing. That would make people like, make me want to pick up the phone, have a longer conversation, hear about what you're doing. In fact, before we started this interview, like we were just going on and I was like, we got to save some of this for the interview. But like, that's the kind of stuff you bring to it. You just you're just the kind of guy people want to talk to. But how do you teach someone else to be that guy that people just want to talk to no matter what?
Patience. And I think that's the hard thing to do when you're up, like you said, up against a deadline. So it's twofold. And actually you pick up a really good point. Is a lot of board of directors or a lot of executive directors at nonprofits are going to say, you need to come in right now. Jason, I need you to raise $100,000 in the next 30 days. That's not how this works. Now you could go find it. You could hustle and hardcore call people, cold call, and just kind of drain them into giving you money. But there's probably not going to give you a gift again because it doesn't feel good. So where I differ from a lot of people who say, it's a numbers game, bro, just get up the phone and start calling and blah, 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 and ask. My thing is, yeah, that's great to get a gift, but if that's the only time you get a gift and they don't feel good about it, they're not going to give it to you again. They're probably going to talk a little bit despairingly about you because you don't have a relationship and you don't care. You don't necessarily want to align their gift with something else. Or you might say to yourself, this doesn't feel right, and I'm going to still pursue it. And that feels bad now because then you've got a bad deal between you and you get this icky feeling. So I preach patience. I say, listen, it takes a long time to get you to build up the rapport to say, hey, Jason, I want you to give me $5,000. What the hell for? Well, I think I've got this thing with older animals. We're like, I don't even like animals. Well, I think it's a great cause, whatever. Like, if you don't like animals, but I need $5,000, what the heck am I having a conversation with you about? And there's a lot of people who said, no, keep pushing, because we need the money. And that is a scarcity mindset that a lot of nonprofits have. In an abundance mindset, in the mindset in which nonprofits should be, is, listen, everybody is not for us, and that's okay. Let's go find the people who are. Let's corral them around a great story and making massive impact. And let's them ask the question, how can I help? And that takes a lot more time than we need to hustle and raise this money right now. So it's a shift of the board of directors. It's a shift of the executive director or the organization as a whole that says immediacy is not going to be the way to play this. Your long game is. And not everybody's going to have an infectious sort of personality. And that's okay. Maybe that person shouldn't be asking for money. And this takes like a weird personality to have a conversation or be able to weave in and out of topics or wherever to be relatable. And that's really the best fundraisers are the ones who ask better questions, who listen, who can connect the dots a little better, use improv, tell stories, and be really genuinely interested in other people. I'm genuinely interested in Jason because I literally love the fact that you're doing this. I love the fact that you're talking about entrepreneurship and dads. There is a unique brotherhood of the weirdos who decide that this is a good idea. And so I'm genuinely interested in this topic, this show, and everything. So I'm not BSing you by saying I really appreciate this topic of conversation, because there's not a lot of us that we can go and say, I need to just bitch and moan for a little bit about how exhausting this is. And so you're giving amazing value. So I'm automatically attracted to what you're offering. And that's the same thing in the nonprofit world. If you're not attracted, now you're just forcing myself upon you. And because I have a deadline and I've got a budget to make, and it feels gross and it feels icky, and you're never going to come back, which means I got to work twice as hard to raise twice as much money the next time around, because you don't have any relationship with me on the next budget line or the next budget year. And then you got to start all over. And that's why we have burnout in the nonprofit world, and it sucks. And it's just overwhelming because nobody's taking the time to build better rapport.
Would it be accurate to say, because I kind of got this from what you were just saying right now, that you take time to build a culture that's outside of a company and outside of a cause? Like there's something that supersedes it all, and you basically you grow that and you nurture that, because you can take that with you, that culture with you. And should you need to go to another cause or another company, that comes with you. Would that be, because it's a brand? Basically, that's what a brand is. A brand usually is people will follow your brand, whether you're a real estate agent in Keller Williams or Century 21, or whether you work for this stock brokerage or that stock brokerage, they're trusting you. So you take this culture that you've grown and nurtured with you as you go. Would that be the most accurate way of putting it?
A lot of people do that. And that's why major gift officers move from university to university or church to church. Like they move because they've got this wonderful cult of personality, which is just genuinely interested in people's best interests. They want to see impact, and they say, alcohol, I got to roll the decks a mile long because they trust me as a person. Now, if you're a smart organization, you'll take that enthusiasm and you will make sure that people are not only giving to a Patrick Kirby, but they're also giving to my organization as well. So that even if I leave, they still feel relatable to the organization which they give to. Letting somebody just fly by the seat of their pants because you're expected of them to raise money and blah, blah, blah. The risk of the organization then becomes, we've now isolated this person. We haven't given them support or whatever. And so now when they leave, we're like screwed, because we expected a whole bunch of them. We didn't invest any time into knowing who these people were. And now they walked out the door and he took everybody with him.
So almost like with horses, where you have the racehorse that always wins, you gotta make sure that while he's still in your stable, you put him out to stud and help create a couple of other winners in there while he's in there.
That's a great analogy. And I think this is in the business world, especially in the nonprofit world. There is not a emphasis on training the next generation of nonprofit leaders, because, and I'll tell you something, the average career span of a development director in the nonprofit world is 18 months. So between 0 and 18 months, people are going to leave the organization because they feel overwhelmed. There's unreasonable expectations. It's hard work. There's no support. The financial weight of an organization is on their shoulders, and they're going to leave. So if you were a smart organization, it's build tactics about what works and then say, hey, listen, teach the next generation to help you. And how can we get you to the next level so that we can train the next generation to take your place and fill your shoes so that you can go on and do great, big, better things. But we still have this, army of folks who really talk about the impact the way you do, tell stories the way you do, and have the relationships that you do. That's not being done in the nonprofit world. It's really scary because the amount of turnover that happens here is just unbelievable. So this attitude of yours, it sounds like, this is the dad attitude in all of us. You're trying to make sure that if you leave a legacy, but it's funny that nobody else cares about that but you. And you're trying to you're trying to change that. So how do you
do you train these, or do you, I guess how much do you fight for that when you're working for someone? You're like, I come in, I try to teach you these principles.
Yeah.
I go up to this point, and if it doesn't sink in, then either I'm out, we don't work together anymore. I kind of just throw up my hands, do what I'm here to do, and move on. Like, do you have some kind of process that you kind of lay at their feet and say, okay, here's the tenets before we move to the second base together or third base or anything? It's like, here's my rules. I got to be home by midnight. You can't go through my button on my shirt. Like, whatever your rules are, just for them to respect how you do what you do. Like, what is that for people?
Yeah, it's really a framework to just follow and be consistent with. And regardless if I'm sitting there holding your hand the whole time, or I'm letting you kind of roam and give you a framework to kind of play in, it's really just it's consistency. And if you get distracted by something, or that you find another shiny object to go chase after, and you're not sticking to the plan that we've developed, inevitably you're going to get off track and you're going to go, well, this didn't work. And so my whole consulting sort of role in some of these nonprofits is just go get the basics of remember the basics, remember the things that got you there. Remember to plan your work week. Remember to make asks that don't necessarily have to make anything about money. Document conversations, man. Don't forget something really important that was really interesting about that donor. Remember to celebrate some of these wins. Remember to send a thank you note. Like, some of the really basic things that mean a lot to a donor, or mean a lot to a relationship in general, are the same things that you do in the nonprofit world. And if you get distracted about that, well, then you need to get back to the basics, or you're just not interested in raising money for the long term. And that's totally okay. So we can move on and not feel bad about it, because that wasn't a system that you're really into, and you like the frenetic pace of just chasing dollars, and that's okay. I'm not mad about it. But traditionally, we've got a lot of people and a lot of our clients that just consistently kind of do that, where we just check in once a month, or check in every other week, or whatever the case may be, just to make sure they got accountability. The same thing you would have as a business coach, the same thing you would have as anything in the for-profit world, kind of what we do in the nonprofit world.
Do you have like a system that you recommend for them for all this follow-up? Because if somebody's just listening to this, we're like, it sounds like a lot of things. I got to remember that. Is there, like, I know some people like Active Rain, HubSpot, like there's all these systems out there.
Yeah.
Is there something you kind of put together that you kind of have a template for, that you say, here's how we do it. Here's your KPIs, whatever. And like, you're following the plan, and here's how to manage your expectations, because right here is, normally like whatever, 30 days, it starts to peak, it starts to actually ramp up, not in 15 days. It could be 45 days, but you got to keep these things running. What is it that you recommend to these people, that whether they take it or not normally?
Yeah, it's one thing a day for 5 days a week, and it's planning, doing, documenting, celebrating, and appreciating. That's it. So if it's 20 minutes a day, it's 40 minutes a day, it's 3 hours a day, I don't care. But as long as you're doing something to move the needle forward for donors, because in the nonprofit world, and same thing in the business, right? We wear 10,000 different hats. You're a marketer, you're a salesperson, you're also the HR person, you're also kind of maybe social media, you're a billionaire of the things. But what are you doing to make a relationship better? Are you planning and prioritizing your week to make sure that you get to that one or two people that you really need to have a conversation with? Are you taking action? Are you just planning to plan the plan for the sake of planning? Well, that you'll never grow, or you'll never do, right? So execute, and make an ask, right? Make an ask that's not about money. Can I see you again? Can I have another conversation? Can I send you something? Can I get you on an email list? Can I introduce you to somebody? Have them say yes to something, right? That's the old Dale Carnegie deal. You get them to say yes to something, and at least that gets you into the door and gives you permission to follow up. Did you have an interesting conversation? Document that for 20 minutes a day. What'd you have that's rattling around in your brain? You got to get on paper to remember. Celebrate wins. Whether it's yours or theirs or donors, a community member, whatever it is, spend time relating yourself and celebrating and lifting up others. And then you spend 20 minutes a day on Friday writing 2 or 3 or 5 thank you notes, or making thank you calls, or sending a thank you email, or sending a thank you social posts, like whatever you are to do to appreciate, because the next time that you plan to meet with somebody on that Monday, the last thing they remember from you is a genuine gratitude note at the end of the week. You didn't ask him for money. You didn't ask him for business. You didn't ask him for anything else. So it's this framework that you just repeat and rinse and all the time.
So you don't do like, all right. So when you're, for example, in real estate, right? It's like when you're talking to a seller, it's like if they're not a seller, you stay on the phone with them. They say, I forget it. I think it might be any longer than 9 minutes. You're on too long. Like there's none of that with this. There's like all you're doing today, you're just calling people and starting the phone relationship. The next day, you know, instead of 5 things in one day, you're doing one thing in 5 days. Like and focusing. Okay, so that's a good way to like break it down, because you're right. It's that overlap of all these things, and whenever they come in, that makes your head spin and like, I can't do it. Yeah, so.
It overcomplicates things, and I think in relationships you shouldn't overcomplicate them, right? Everybody thinks, like you just said at the top. It was interesting the way that you said this, and I'm so curious on your experience. Where if somebody comes in and says, "Hey, Jason, I saw you on the podcast, or I saw you on Dad Next Door. It's really kind of a cool show. I'd love to get to know you more." Your instinct went to, "All right, where's the sales pitch?"
It wasn't even that. Because it's not even, that was the difference. Right. It wasn't even, I seen you, or like the closest you'll get to that is, oh, I noticed we're in the same groups. Like,
oh yeah, exactly.
That's like too vague, right? Like that, or are you open to, do you leave, what's the key phrase everybody's saying? Are you open to new opportunities or listening to new opportunities? It's like, oh my God, you know nothing about me. I'm all about opportunities. But if you ask me that question, that means you already don't know who I am. Yeah. So done. Like that's strike one. And But if they ask, like what you just said, I just checked out the show. You know, I really liked what you had to say about this. You know, I had a question. That is totally different, because now I'm like, oh yeah, you know, this guy's a fan. Like he could be a fan. I mean, he could be setting me up, but at least he actually did a little research. He came with a flirt. He came with a compliment or something, not a old getting ready for the slam bam, thank you, ma'am kind of thing.
So if you're a fundraiser and you want to get into like a bank, a local regional bank, right? And you notice that they give to these charities and you think you can get into that. You've got 2 options. One, hey, can I speak to somebody who gives to the charitable groups? Or call up one of the regional VPs who you know that you saw out at a ribbon cutting ceremony, right? And say, hey, Jason, I saw that you were a part of the ribbon cutting ceremony over there. It's one of my favorite places in the entire world. Thanks so much for supporting our community. I really appreciate it. I'd love to get to know what else you guys do and support, and how our organization can work with you to help you and your giving needs or whatever. There's a dramatic difference between those, and the amount of time it takes to do a minimal amount of research and have that conversation or leave that message is so negligible. And yet people go to the easy route of like, Jason, can I talk to the person who gives you, who does checks for community gifts? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares about your organization because you've built no real rapport and you're only thinking about how I can get a check. The other route, which takes very little time, but if you are pragmatic about it and you carve out time to do research, to do some planning or some execution parts, now all of a sudden you're a little more interesting. And you don't have to have a big, bold personality. You don't have to be enthusiastic and talk with your hands all the time on Zoom calls or on stream, right? You don't have to do that. Yet all of a sudden you are a little more intriguing than the next cold call because you did, like you said, a little bit of research. It goes a long way, man.
You know, it goes a real long way. You find out where that bank is, where that guy works. You go in and you open an account and you be like, hey, weren't you at that thing?
There you go.
Then you're in the door. Like, hey, talk to me about the fund right now. And then you're in the door. Like that. If I was really determined, that's probably what I would do. It's only going to cost me a couple $2 in a bank account and go and end it later if you want. But I mean, that I just think that way. I'm more of a sniper anyway. Like I don't try to go that. So
I like it.
Talk to me about your dad. I mean, you did mention that he was an entrepreneur. Yeah. Like, I mean, you did get the spirit from him. It runs in the family.
I remember being in high school and my dad was a really successful sales rep. Did, sold the Target and Best Buy and that kind of stuff, right? He's a manufacturing sales rep. And I remember he started his own business in the middle of me being in private school, all 3 kids in private school. I go, that was really weird. Like that, I didn't think about it that way. I was just like, wow, I just saw him slept on the couch for 6 months because, you know, apparently that wasn't a cool idea, leaving a well-paying job and with 3 kids in grade school. And I talked to him about that for like years later. And it turns out he was doing really well, and his boss decided he was doing too well and capped his income, right? He said he couldn't make any more money. He goes, well, that's not fair. I'm making you a lot of money. You should continue to pay me commission. He goes, no, you're going to get capped here. And so he basically committed mutiny, quit his job, took accounts, took salespeople with him to start his own company, and did it behind total closed doors, went to all the, it was unbelievable. Like it was the audacity in the story that he tells is unbelievable. Got sued by the guy because it didn't take a paycheck for a year because he couldn't, he's on non-competes, but he did it. And I asked him about that and he goes, I just knew that I was destined to do this and I knew I could do it. And the risk was, am I willing to work for somebody else who's going to tell me what I can and cannot do? Or am I going to define and decide what my fate's going to be, whether I work hard, build better rapport with people, build better relationships, and trust that I know this more than anyone else. And that has stuck with me since then, right? And I think that's the power of dads in the sense, like that has never left my brain, where he said, I'm going to do this. I know the risks. I'm going to take it. Very humble. I think he borrowed money from it could have been a bad bet. And but he bet on himself and he said, I know this kind of stuff. So when I took a leap, I referred back to him all the time. I would call him. I said, this is the new plan. This is the business plan. What do you think? Poke holes in it. I would refer to him a lot or defer to him a lot because he was just the guy that went through it. And I used his audacity as my challenge to say, this is something I've seen done. I know it can be done, but I got to trust myself. I got to trust the process. And I remember the conversation I had with my wife, because we had just recently, I say we in the royal we, like as if I had anything to do with having a baby, but my wife had our 3rd child. And then 2 months later, I just said, you know what? I'm gonna start my own business. And I think she thought it was cute. I didn't think she'd think it was like real. And I said on my birthday, I'm gonna quit. It's gonna happen. I built everything up, and I did. And she said, well, what about healthcare? I go, well, we'll work it out. She's like, no, don't be an idiot. Like, we need to figure this out if you're gonna do this, because you're leaving a well-paying, like a really good paying job to start something you have no idea if it's gonna work or not. And I trusted that whole process that my dad went through. And I said, if I stick to my guns, I know I can do this. I know it's going to be a need. I know it's a niche that nobody's in. And that's kind of what I used as inspiration. I still, to this day, deciding how to grow, doubling down on some efforts. I use him as that bellwether, that Northern Star that I will continue to do. And even if my kids don't have the entrepreneur spirit that gets passed on to them. Some kids don't, and it's totally fine. I never wanted to be in a position where I could have done it and I didn't. And then my kids would have reflected back and said, no, he could have done that, but he didn't. I even though they wouldn't have known that or whatever, but I want them to see the audacity of something you can do if you put everything into it. That's what I want to leave.
So first, this is not liquor, but here's to all the dads that had to sleep on a couch, all the dad entrepreneurs that had to sleep on a couch for 6 months or longer, chasing their dream that had actually they never got compensated back for all that time they spent on the couch and all that loving and snuggling they could have had. So here's to you guys, because I think every dad entrepreneur has been either sleeping alone or on the couch or some version of that over these same decisions. So respect. Number 2, so regarding the kids, you said, so are any of them looking like they want to follow in your footsteps right now, or is that they're still too young?
You can they've all got their wonderful personalities. And this is what I love about being a dad. You can kind of point out like who's going to do what. And my oldest has the best personalities of my wife and myself, which is just that kid's going to be hilarious. He's overly emotional. hard-headed. Like he's going to be great, and he's going to do anything that he sticks his brain out. The other one is going to be one of those silent leaders. He could be loud if he wanted to, but he's going to be kind of that methodical one. My daughter is going to rule the world someday, so look out. Like get to know Willow, because she's going to be your boss someday. And I apologize in advance because she's going to be a freaking bear, and I love it. And she's going to take no crap from anybody. But you can kind of tell that they want. And again, I hate to say that, because again, I know a lot of dads that don't have an entrepreneur mindset, and it's not like nobody's better than it. It's just I could never be in a position where I'm taking orders from somebody else anymore. I cannot do that anymore. I've that's eliminated from my ability as a business person, and I kind of see that in a disregard for rules that they think are dumb. I don't know if you ever taken a DISC score where, you sort of like rank yourself in the personality score. And I'm like a high I, which means I need constant praise and adoration to do something, but I am compliance. I'm a low. Like I see rules as meant to be broken because they are broken in themselves. And as frustrated as I get with my kids who don't like dumb rules, there's a part of me going, you're going to crush it in the entrepreneur game, because you're going to figure out the loopholes. You're going to figure out what doesn't work, and you're going to figure out, and you're going to do your own way of doing it.
Well, when you're dealing with them right there, you can't let them know that, because
exactly.
You got to put that face on, and you got to, there's this mask of like, no, you ain't getting away with that. And
you're not getting away with that.
Like, oh yeah, I can see you got what it takes, but I just can't let you unleash that dragon right now.
God, isn't that right? Oh my God, even like in routines, where they see routines and they almost see them as boring. And I'm now in this dad mode. I don't know about you, if you're in a routine. Like, what's your morning routine? I got a question for that, because I love.
This is what the next question I was going to ask.
Oh my God!
Right now, I was ready for you too. That was the next question. So mine or yours? Who you want to?
I want to hear yours, because I love dad routines.
I mean, like I get up at 5 a lot of times, and sometimes I might slip back into a coma for an hour, but I try to get up. I'll do some yoga. I'll read. I'll get my mind right for a while before they get up. Read devotion, journal a little bit. Like I said, the yoga, and then, on and off. And then, just kind of like prep my mind for the day. They come down, they go to get ready for school. There's a little dance around when we get to exercise, whether my wife goes to run or whether I'm going out and my daughter's up, and we're kind of entertaining that. So, I don't know, I guess I kick it into high gear, maybe around 10 o'clock, start to kind of work, if I have a class that I have to teach, or some webinar or whatever, mastermind, like going on, then I normally do it earlier in the day. Between 11 and 4 is kind of when I take any kind of calls for like the dad lab stuff, or any kind of consultation calls. That's kind of what's there. And then I kind of just try to shut it all down by about 4. There are a couple of night things that I do, a Tuesday night mastermind. And then like, this is Thursdays, which I'm like, I was discussing, I was kind of move it over, but there's just flexibility there. And then, to be honest with you, dinner, hang out with the kids for a while. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I'll go to bed when they go to bed these days, because that'll be my wind down time. Like, they're in the bed, they're finally there. I could be as early as 8:30, 9 o'clock. I don't care. I go down because I get up early, but that's my kind of wind down time, and that's my routine, kind of right there.
I love that. My wife's not a morning person, so I'm the morning person. So I'll get up. It's immediate, like, sleepwalk to the coffee machine. Start that out of the gate. And then it's I'll make breakfast with the kids. So I'll start whatever. Like, it's breakfast meats or it's eggs. Get a protein in there. Make that. Wake the boys up. I'll send a dog down. Put them in the bed. Go, hey, get your butts upstairs. Upstairs, flip sausages or flip breakfast meats. Go to my daughter's room down the hall. Wake her up. She's not going to get up for at least 10 minutes. Go back. Suck down a cup of coffee. Boys are finally up. Plate. Get daughter in there. Dog out. Dog fed. Now I can finally take a shower while they're eating. I know damn well they're going to have a fight at some sort of thing. My wife is still sleeping, by the way. And I got 12 minutes from the time that I'm out of the shower to get dressed, to get their butts out of the door to the bus stop, on the bus, grab my daughter, put her in the car, go to daycare, and I'm on my way to work. Every morning, it is routine in the morning. Like that is the bit in the morning. And I know that my oldest knows that it's a routine and likes to mess with it. And he is a jerk for it. And I
see a guy like you. I would think you would have like some kind of contraptions, like you would pull a rope and all the lights would go on and all the sheets would get yanked off the bed so that they're cold and not comfortable. Like my pop used to do that to me. He'd come in, he's like, and he just ripped the whole the bed's everything's on the floor. So you're gonna be cold. You're not gonna be comfortable. That's the way.
I do the exact same thing. I will throw our literal dog onto their bed, and I'll shake the one on the top bunk. I go, God, get up, and I'll leave the dog, and I'll get her all riled up, and I'll run because she'll take care of the rest. And I wish I had an automated thing, like a bone would go down the stairs and then go into the bed and then be under the covers, and she'd go that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
I got 3 of them that are morning people and 3 that are not. So it's kind of like a weird.
That is weird.
Yeah, it's just like some look like smiling and happy, and the other one's like, all the whole time, and then they start to pick on each other, and it gets tricky. But what is your best dad life look like?
God, my best dad life is it's on the golf course with my boys. I remember golf with my dad for the first time. Like my dad and I golf, and that's our thing. Like I'll go and sit in the golf cart and we'll talk about, dumb stuff and, download on, whatever. And I remember him teaching me how to play, and I'm now teaching my kids how to play and sit in the golf cart and just kind of do etiquette like that. And it's such a cool bit there. Or driving my daughter to and from daycare, and we will listen to literal heavy death metal in the car. She loves it. She loves girl-led heavy metal bands. So she will ask we get out of the driveway and we go, and she's like, Daddy, play baby metal. And I was like, all right, we're playing it. And we'll play Japanese pop, J-pop, death metal all the way to school. And she just in the back, she's like this. She's like, Dad, I like this because they're girls. Girls could do rock and roll. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, they can. And they're just like, that's the best with her. Boys on the golf course, or my oldest on the golf course for sure. Middle kid playing video games with him. It's because I'm a big kid at heart and I play video games, and each one of them have their little thing. And it's knowing that and being able to do it now. And I find that to be extremely rewarding, that I don't have to have any justification for it. I can just do it. So fun.
With me, it's like more random stuff. I mean, like knowing that if we played tag on the playground, they still couldn't tag me like that, because I mean, they're fast, but I'm still faster. But me not getting damaged doing it. That's always interesting. But
I will never lose to my kid in Mario Kart. I will never. I will put my foot down. I will let them think they're going to win. Never win.
How about the simpler things like tic-tac-toe or the other ones that are confidence boosters? I still spank them, but I at the end I give them a couple wins. But yeah, they gotta learn that lesson, I feel. But the car stuff. My one daughter, she's 4, but they dig the 80s music, man. They'll sing hungry. They'll sing "Hungry Like the Wolf" at the top of their lungs. They get that. So good taste, I think.
I think it's great taste. That's the way you need to do it. And I like that you've watched Frozen 2 400 times too, right?
The first one more than the second, but yeah, I've watched them quite a bit.
So Into the Woods is my jam, because that's literally Peter Cetera ripoff song. And it is the greatest, like an 80s rock ballad kind of bit. And that's I feel like people are making movies for dads and for adults, and they're just throwing in humor for us so we can deal with it because it gets played 400 times.
I think that's Pixar's whole jam since the beginning.
So good.
Figure that out.
Smart. There's a bunch of, that's how you know this.
Well, they know the dads pay for the tickets. Like generally, the dads are buying the movie tickets, so they're like, "Look," and this is a problem I had in one of my businesses. It's total tangent, but I had a toy business for a little while, like on Amazon. I was doing, it was like the what do you call it? The rainbow bands, but it was like all the accessories. So I made a whole brand around it, whatever. But one of the reason I kind of stopped it was because it was so difficult. I had to educate the parents on why this was cool, but parents don't care. The kids want it, but they don't got the money. So it's like you have to hit 2 different people at the same time. And I was like, it's too much for me to do by myself. So I kind of let it go because I was like, there's too much education here, and I'm split. But to that end, they figured out that the dads buy the tickets, so let's give them some sneaky jokes in there. And it's like the old Warner Brother cartoons, the Looney Tunes used to do. They used to sneak in mad. I mean, they do it in Nickelodeon too, but they sneaked in mad like adult things. And like now you even think about them and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they got by with that. But it was funny. It's funny now. But in Pixar, it's more innocent, but they sneak a lot of things into these movies today. And you're just like, man, if they only knew what that meant.
I love it's the best. It's the best. I like figuring it out, and I like finding the movies that have the most amount of dad or like the most amount of adult humor. You're like, oh yeah, all right, you made this one for me. I feel good about it. That's great.
So what's one weird thing that most people don't know about you?
Oh, I play Dungeons and Dragons every Monday night. I am a level 8 ranger, and my name's Steve, and I am I tell terrible dad jokes, by the way, as a character in Dungeons and Dragons.
That is a superpower. What are you talking about? That's a wizard level sort of thing there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit. I can shoot a longbow. I mean, that's as in character. Yeah, that's great. I would totally, if I was allowed and it was socially acceptable, I would play like in-person role playing, dress up like a wizard, and I would have battles. If it was socially appropriate and social media didn't exist, I would go out and I would dress up like a knight, and I would do that.
So my guy Michael Shine was just commenting about him and his kids, his ultimate days. He's playing ultimate frisbee for years with his, and now his 14-year-old daughter is obsessed with ultimate frisbee. 14-year-old, I guess, son, and he's taught him all the throws and catches. Yes. So that's his reward. So good job, Mikey. What I wanted to ask is, so what's your dad kryptonite? Like, what? I mean, it could be, I mean, they press your buttons a certain way, or just something that, you know, like they get you over. Like, what's that for you?
Yep, it is. It's when, it's when I know they hear me, and they look at me, and they do the exact opposite of what I did, but they're making eye contact the whole time. And they know it drives me nuts, and they know they're going to get a reaction from me, and they think it's hilarious until I don't think it's hilarious anymore. It is the one thing that I cannot absolutely stand.
And
I know you hear me.
How do you handle it? I mean, I will, because if you keep going to the same move, they're going to just get used to that, and then like they're going to adjust for it. So like, I always feel like. And I used to tell my wife this, you can't always react to the same thing the same way. You got to keep them on their toes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to totally act like it didn't happen and confuse them. Other times you got to go hard, and other times you just got a delayed reaction to it. Like, remember that time? So that way they kind of, but that's just me. But what do you do to
I love it. I go through and admittedly, my wife thinks this is a terrible idea. It's probably a terrible idea, but I will start slow, and I will repeat what I want to say over and over and over, and I will ramp up and I will ramp up, and I'll get to like number 17 before I finally snap, because I feel like I'm giving them a runway off, and like, listen, at any point in time before I get to a 12, you've got a chance to save yourself, and I'll pivot back, but if I get to the 12, now I'm gonna actually snap, and I go, all right, it's over. Everybody loses everything.
Yeah, I mean, that is our house into a T. Everybody goes to bed. Everybody goes to bed. Nobody eats.
Everybody done. So we have every night, and we've done this since my oldest was 1 year old. We have had read bedtime stories, and we snuggle until for a little bit. So we'll go in, we'll read chapter. We're ravenous readers in the house. We've got more books than we have more books than anything else in the house. And so we'll always read at night, and then always sort of like snuggle up, right? So it's Willow up top, boys in basement, and we'll switch off every night. That's the bit. So it's the thing that my kids love more than anything, and I know that. So I will hold that as my one reward that I will take away. I go, you're to lose stories and snuggles, and they're like, immediately back off, like, oh no, don't go scorched earth, Dad. This is terrible. And even when I take that away, I hate it. It's the worst thing that I take away, even though I know they love it the most. I also do, because it's kind of the end. It's same thing with you and your routine at the end. Like you go through the night and that's kind of your come down. That's my come down. I know after that, I get to go play video games or whatever I do to like sort of recharge the batteries. But that's the bit I get to step into. And it's bad. I get to take that away.
No, because you got to use whatever actually
I know.
feels like a threat. It's like you could threaten like bodily harm. I don't care. I'm taking away the snuggles. You're not getting a kiss goodnight. I'm not going to say goodnight to you. Oh, okay, I'll stop.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the weird thing, but like you got to use what's at your disposal.
I hear you.
So let's go back. Let's talk about this. I don't want to go too far without getting back to like, talk to me about this do better, good, better consulting.com. Who do you serve in that? Is it people that are learning to fundraise, or is it the organizations themselves seeking better fundraisers? Like who are you, who's your customer there?
Kind of both. So small, medium-sized nonprofits, anybody raising less than $1 million a year is probably ideal client for us, or it's individuals who work at organizations that raise less than $1 million a year. So, whether you need at your own pace coursework, we've got dozens and dozens of courses for that. Whether you need, bless you, whether you need group coaching. So like, once every other week where you kind of sit around in almost mastermind like group that we get together and talk about fundraising, and it's kind of a safe space that we all kind of know it's super important to do, or it's actual organization one-on-one consulting we sort of built. That's what we do. And what I do a lot of speaking gigs. I kind of do a lot of presentation pieces that kind of funnels into that. But those are the kind of three things we do. And we've relatively recently gotten streamlined into that. I used to do like everything, like, oh, I'll do your marketing or I'll do this. And I could do it. I don't like it. Didn't really fit the bill. And so we got real niche again on what we do. And it's just at your own pace, group coaching, one-on-one. That's it.
You seem to do a lot of like, from the pictures anyway, from like community kind of work. Like if there's like some kind of contest or some kind of like, maybe it's a street outreach or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like where you find yourself the happiest too? Like just kind of being out there and pressing the flesh and like, just almost in a political aspect, like you're doing God's work, right? Like, like that.
Yeah. I think that's where, and I appreciate you taking the time to kind of have, even pre-calls and stuff like this so that you and I can kind of, be personable together. And I think once people realize that fundraising doesn't have to be scary, you can have fun, you can be enthusiastic, and it doesn't, like, I can give you you're going to be okay. I'm going to give you the tips and tricks. You're going to, come on, let's just join the party. And it's going to be great. And I think I love that light bulb moment that this is not going to be an alone time. I've got somebody who's got my back. And I think you can only do that in real time, real moment, in the flesh kind of ways. So anywhere I can go, like today we delivered Bunt Cakes. We got a Nothing Bunt Cakes is a place in town, which is an adorable name. And we delivered those to Nonprofit of the Year Award nominees at from our Chamber of Commerce. So there's like 12 of them, and we went door to door around the tri-metro area. We drove around and delivered these things. And that was so much fun because it's unexpected. Nobody expects you to do that. Nobody's doing that. We'd say, hey, congratulations on being nominated. We really appreciate you. I didn't make an ask, didn't talk to them about anything. Here's a couple of business cards. There's a bunch of cakes. Eat and have fun and celebrate. We're going to celebrate with you. And so I love doing that. I love being at events or speaking at events or emceeing events where I can kind of be a part of this really fun giving moment. And that's what makes this so much fun. To realize that you're helping organizations raise money to do good or make impact or help feed the hungry or give shelter to those who don't have a place to live or helping animals find their forever home or helping kids with developmental disability to delay. Name any other business that you can feel so awesome about every single day, helping people try to raise money to do amazing things. It doesn't exist. And I've made up my own job to do it. And that's where Do Good Better Consulting comes in. I get to be a part of some of these organizations all the time. It's great.
Does crowdfunding, because that's such a big hot topic still, ever like come into play where they're like, well, what if we crowdfund this? And I know it's probably not the right move because usually crowdfunding is like, it's not just well, that's called fundraising for a reason. There's just nothing in it for the other person financially. Like it's not an investment other than a social investment or, like whatever, investment of the heart. Yeah. Do they ever kind of come up with that and say, well, what is your opinion about crowdfunding? Would it even work for anything like this?
It would, but you'd have to figure out, and this is kind of where we teach some of our clients, is like, why are you doing it? Are you raise a quick buck? Great, it's going to work. If it's for a quick buck and you don't have any follow-up plan with each one of those donors to say, hey, thank you, this is what your donation did, consider it the one-time gift. You'll never have that relationship back. Or if you crowdfund because you need an emergency fund for this, or you need to go to the community and say, we need to rally the troops around helping somebody who's got a cancer diagnosis, or we need to help the family. That's a feel good in the moment sort of thing. If you're an organization that's trying to raise money consistently over the next couple of years, unless you have a game plan to follow up with each one of those donors, crowdfunding is going to be good for a one-time gift. That's it. But when you're talking about like medical bills, emergencies, that kind of stuff, it could be pretty beneficial in that regard.
Got it. What's you mentioned masterminds, right? So are you in any?
I have been in a couple. Now we've got like a group of us as entrepreneurs that kind of get together all the time and are on constant chats, throwing up ideas that way. I developed kind of a mastermind ourselves in this group coaching sort of thing where it's a space to kind of create and come up with ideas and banter around, hey, who's got a problem right away we need to put a tourniquet on, who's got a fire we need to put out together, and sort of the collective brain power in general is really one of the best ways in the nonprofit world because they don't talk to each other. Ironically, like they feel competitive with each other. And so in order to learn, you have to have this safe environment, kind of like a mastermind where you have this trust and really small group that you chat with. So we've kind of developed these mastermind groups. So I more facilitate some of them than belong to them. But I have my unaffiliated, definite, close-knit crew of entrepreneurs who have bitching and moaning sessions about everything else that has to do with entrepreneurship. And now that I know this dad group exists, my whole life is way better because that's, again, like I said, this niche within on being an entrepreneur is how to maintain dad mode and entrepreneur mode all the time, and how not to let it slip in between, and where to keep that balance. And like that is that's one of the hardest things that I've had to learn over the years is that.
Well, you seem to have a pretty good, I mean, based on your schedule, like you got it where you go away to go to work, like you go outside the house and it's almost like a 9 to 5, but you did it that way on reason. And then you're home on weekends where other guys, or myself included, it's like, we just find the times in between, and, you know, it's up to you and your discipline and your hustle. And sometimes, you know, plates drop, you spin so many plates and some of them are going to drop. So, but, it's what I was going to say. You mentioned just to let you know, like we did start a dad group. It is a mastermind. It's like this accountability group. So I'll shoot you the link. It's another dad entrepreneur. He's out of Canada. His name's Jeff Lopez. And he put together this decent like online system where you just go through everything and kind of check off the boxes. And then you get on a call, you kind of refine it. And then every weekend, Friday or Saturday, they alternate. You get on a call and you kind of like hold each other accountable. So, I mean, if that's something you want to get down with, I'll shoot you the link, but like that's open to anybody. I started with him because I was like, he actually came up with it's more than just a mastermind. There's like a protocol already set up for it. So, you know, and, you know, tech and all that, I like that. So everything was easy. You know, when you get busy, come back, finish your lesson and your accountability and your goals and all that, come back in, you look at it, it's there, you go back to it. Pretty cool. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I definitely want to invite you to that. So you're going to hate me for this next question.
Oh, no.
Maybe.
No.
It's not the ultimate question, but so if you had to, with a gun to your head, pick one charity as your favorite cause, which one would you choose?
You are the worst. I love you, but this is the worst. Okay, I'm going to so This is the one I would choose.
The one that's closest to your heart, whatever. You got to have a good reason, because I know somebody's going to maybe see this and be like, damn, I wasn't number one. And you're going to be like, look at the reason, though. And they're going to have to.
This is the reason. Listen, there's words underneath here. I would still choose to this day the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And the reason is because that was the job that I got that spurred everything that I do from then on. It was the job that I got after I left the nonprofit world for a for-profit business and realized that I didn't like for-profit. I needed to go back into the nonprofit. It was an organization that took a flyer on me with not as much experience as I thought I was going to need for it. I got to run regional walks, $1 million galas. I got to work on. I got to talk with some of the most wonderfully high capacity donors in the Twin Cities that I would have never gotten to meet in my entire life. And I met kids and young adults who had a life expectancy of 25, who through the amount of money that we raised, the amount of research that we did, are now going to live longer than I am now. I still have friends and colleagues in the field that have cystic fibrosis, are living with it, not dying from it anymore. I've seen the results of what we did from a fundraising standpoint 15 years ago that are now paying off in unbelievable amounts of these medical miracles that are happening in pill form that we thought was just a science fiction thing when we started fundraising for it. And it has always been and will always be sort of my number one nonprofit, because they taught me about venture philanthropy. They taught me about how to fundraise more effectively. They taught me how to build relationships. They taught me how to work systems. And I'll be forever grateful for the experience that I got to start a whole bunch of stuff and do amazing things. So it would be the one I had to choose, but I don't like the question. I love the question.
All you other causes, step up your game. You can't be his first love. You have to come in. You're gonna have to come in with a sexy new attitude. If you want to get that top spot, you better start curing some cancer out there. So what's your best piece of life advice to other dad entrepreneurs right now?
Trust your gut. And it sucks to do it sometimes. And even if it means you need to not, even if it means you need to fail to get there, or even if it's not what's going to get you there, trust your gut. And that means not taking a client. That means not taking a deal. That means not working as much or working more. There's a reason why you feel it. And I don't know what it is. And I don't know if it's, genetic. I don't know if it's atomic. I don't know if it's otherworldly. I don't know if it's heavenly. I don't know what it is, but it's there for a reason. And whether you're a business person or a fundraiser or whatever it is, trust that you know what is supposed to happen and do that.
And number 2 would be buy a comfy couch.
Yes, a really comfortable, or at least a weighted blanket to just weave into.
With some memory foam and possibly that microfiber to keep it from being too dirty and stinky. Yeah, I would say.
When I tell that story, though, it's amazing about how many dad entrepreneurs that you tell that to, and they're like, "Yeah, I know, I hear you," and like nobody talks about it, and they all do it, and it usually becomes. I mean, because that's the thing that nobody teaches you. Isn't that there's nobody who gives you a roadmap to go, listen, your wife's going to be freaking pissed and she's not going to understand anything. And you want to tell them all the feels that you have. And then there's that dad block that you say, no, I got to man up and be this and then do this. And that's a hard deal to roll with. I'm telling you, it sucks. And if you don't talk about it and you don't have a place to, complain about or bitch and moan about, I mean, that is the worst. It's the worst.
But here's the thing, right? Not for nothing, but you know how many people I've heard say, "Oh, that'll never happen to me because I'm." Oh. And then you just like, so you don't even talk. Like you're just like, all right, dude, you think so? Watch what happens.
Good luck with all that. Here's my cell phone number. Call me when you're on the couch. You need a place to stay, because it happens, and I think that is. It's something I think you go through, and it's this wonderful learning experience for internally. Like what could I have done, wrong? Even if you've got everything in the business right, there's always going to be something that you got to improve on, and you're leaving behind. Like you said, like you're always going to drop a plate or two, and it sucks when the plate is the thing that you have valued most, and you know if you concentrate on that, you can't concentrate on this because you just don't have any hands to juggle them, and that's frustrating as all get out, isn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing like a day where like you're just flowing and you're winning and you're in the zone. Everything works perfect, and you get home happy as a clam.
Oh.
There was one thing you forgot, and it pissed your wife off. Whether it was you left dishes from the morning in the sink or some other thing, pet peeve that she don't like, and your whole day just get deflated by that one. Like I just walked in the door, you know. I don't want to hear like I just want to like bask in the glow of a successful. Like I helped all these people. I might have saved somebody's life or whatever like that. Like, and I'm just happy and boom, something so petty. And you're just like, oh my God. But
what is that about too? Yeah. You know, conversely though, and it's really one of those weird things. They'll do like one nice thing and it'll or say something or whatever. You're like, oh, well, I'll be damned. And it doesn't matter how much of a crap day you have. Like, oh, well, his wife told me I look good today or whatever. I mean, it was just like one little bit and you're like, okay.
That is true. There's just way more of what I said than there is of that one, but I'll take those every day because like
all the time.
Wherever they come, if diamonds grew above ground, they wouldn't be that valuable, right? So you gotta take a lot more coal than you get them diamonds, I guess. But
oh my God, I'm gonna steal that. That's great.
So before we gotta get it's going long, but I'm still loving it. How do you want to leave your mark in the world, my man? I know you want to do something. I mean, you're already doing it with all this, fundraising, but like, is there some kind of secret unicorn weird, like, oh man, if I could hit, like say cystic fibrosis, man, before I die, I could like raise 100 million for cystic fibrosis and just not tell anybody and just do it. Like anything out there in your head that you're like, this is what I would love to see.
Yeah. I would love to see. The interesting thing about this COVID world is that the amount of research and the roadmap on how to cure some of these diseases is going to be light years ahead of where they were a year ago. So you're seeing something like MS or you're seeing like type 2 diabetes are 35 years ahead of where they were from now, like from a year ago. Like it's just dramatic. Like you're going to see this dramatic thing. So the amount of money that we raise is going to help. I think my unicorn piece is how many of these small nonprofits have I helped in a way to either jumpstart or spark something that helps them get from, I don't know how to do this to, I can do this now. And I think it's less about the end result of how much money they've raised. I think it's how can I leave as many small positive marks as possible and just plant as many seeds of positivity that I possibly can in the not-for-profit world. Because some of them are going to grow up to be unbelievable fundraising phenomenons. Some of them are not going to grow at all, but at least they got through whatever troubled time they did to call me and kind of walk through some terrible thing. And so it's not really about this audacious number. It's just how many of these small moments that I took time out of my day to, take a phone call or answer an email or do a message or be on a podcast that somebody goes, God, that made sense. I'm going to apply that to my life kind of thing. Like that's what I think about all the time is what mark. I oddly think about, what happens when I, pass away or die or I'm gone. Like, what are the people going to say about me? Did I leave a positive mark on this world or did I leave a negative one? And were my kids proud of me? Ultimately that's all I really care about. I mean,
so like a picture in my head would be this forest this forest of nonprofits that grew, whether they're babies or whatever, and you don't have a number for it, but at least a small grove of these things. And you don't have, do you have a number? Like I have a number in my head of some things and I just call it 100 because 100 is easy for me to remember because Centeno is like stands for 100. So but do you have a number or how about
I don't have a number. And I think I like that as I never want to stop. I don't want to get to a number and I want to stop. I want to continue to do this forever,
It's not about stopping. It's like, it's like the mileage on your car. You just kind of not want to know when you got to get an oil change or something. Like, just,
I'd say 1 million, but could it be more? I mean, it could be more and individuals too. I mean, if you've started one or you decided to give to somebody else or give to a charity or give to a nonprofit, I mean, like how many people can I've never thought. It's interesting. I've never thought about that. It's the first time I've ever been asked that question. I've never thought about it. I will give it thought, and then I'm going to send you a note back when I figure it out.
Yes, please, because that's interesting. Maybe not for you to track, but for someone else. Because one day, when you ever do something, you're so deep into it that you pick your head up and you're like, "Wow."
Yeah.
Well, every once in a while, you need the other people around you to pick up your head for you and be like, "Look, look at what you did." And we're so deep in our work that we forget to do that sometimes. And somebody else should sometimes, co-pilot and help us pay attention to the work we do, because it seems like it'd just be a little bit more fun to every once in a while, see the forest for the trees, so to speak. Like I guess that's if we're going with technology.
That's what we're rolling with tonight. I like that. That's a good one. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, this is it. So did you use your best dad joke in the beginning? Or you got more, right? Okay. So
I saved the best one.
How many you got though?
I'm gonna leave you with one. If we're gonna end on this, I'm gonna end on my favorite one that I've heard in a long time. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
My favorite dad joke. Why do ducks have tail feathers?
I don't know why.
To hide their butt quacks.
I'm using that one. I can use that on the kids. That might be a video.
My oldest one thought that was the funniest damn thing he's ever heard. So I just take it as what a 9-year-old thinks that's really funny. Butt quacks.
I think my most risky one this year was snowballs, talking about the difference between snowmen and snow women.
Yep.
But yeah, that butt quacks gets it too. Oh, this is the one. Tell this to your daughter. See if she understands it.
Yeah.
Why did the mermaid change her seashells?
Why?
Because she needed bee shells.
Oh, see, that's a good one. You won't get it, but I'm going to say it, and it's going to be amazing. I'm going to say it in front of mom. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I can say that in front of the wife and see what the reaction is.
I might have messed it up. I had a better version of that. I think I said it a little wrong, but that was the gist of it. Yeah. They were laughing about it. I was like, you shouldn't even know what that means. Stop laughing.
No. Yeah. I like that. Stealing that one too.
All right, brother, man. I appreciate this. This was a fun time. And get back to me with that number and stay in touch. And if there's anything, any causes right now you want to just put out there in case, put it out there in the world and say, hey, maybe look at this one.
It depends kind of where you're living. I mean, there's a number of different things. If you're on the your East Coast, East South, if you're talking Atlanta area, and you're looking to support groups that are working with the Asian community to kind of do some great works to kind of support them at this time. Great stuff. If you're into medical stuff, I would always ask when people ask me like, hey, are there any great things? Look to what you want to solve in this world. And there's probably a nonprofit out there trying to help and find one of those to fall in love with. And if you don't have a nonprofit that you're associated with right now, find one, because it's the most fulfilling thing you'll ever do. And you'll get to feel a little bit more connected with your own community, regardless of what politics is and what, where you find yourself in salary or whatever. Doing great things for other people is always a great move. And there's always somebody looking for help, whether it's time, treasure, or talent.
Word up. So do good, better consulting. That's how they can find you. The best way to find you.
Absolutely. Find me on Facebook or on Do Good Better Consulting on Facebook. We've got the official Do Good Better podcast, which is kind of fun. Or you can find me on Amazon. Patrick Kirby. I wrote a book. It's super fun, and you should get it. It's called Fundraise Awesome.
I didn't know, and I will actually, because I usually buy all my friends' books. That's the little smattering, but I have titles over there, and you'll like this. I went to go see a friend of mine today, Trey Taylor. I met from about a year ago, and you said about your kids, like who's going to be the personalities.
Yeah,
and so I actually had him sign my book to my youngest daughter, because it's a book. It's called "A CEO Only Does Three Things," and it's a good book. I didn't even think I was going to like it because I don't see myself as CEO of anything per se,
Yeah.
but I am. After I read that book, I say, okay, yeah, I am. But I had him address it to her, Karis, because to me, she's going to be this. She's probably the one that's going to be the CEO of my family. So even if she's 4 years old, I was just like, put her name in it and sign a letter to her. So she'll have this. Maybe one day she'll pick it up and be like, you kind of prophesied this. And I'm like, cool. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I try to get everybody. So I'll shoot me a link with the Amazon link, and I'll actually
I'll send you one. I'll send you a couple, and you send it to somebody who's working in the nonprofit world or needs a little kick in the butt. It's awesome.
Probably my father. He's always trying to raise some funds. All right, look, it was good talking to you, man. It was a pleasure. This was a fun interview, and I don't know, I don't want it to end, but I got to end. So, like they say, you don't have to go home, but you got to get the hell out of here.
Done.
I'll put you in the green room. Don't go nowhere. All right. Just hang tight. Okay.
Done.
All right. Boom, boom. All right, guys. So yeah, that was fun. Patrick's a fun guy. As you can see, a lot of energy, that guy. And listen, the nonprofit sector, that's probably one of the most difficult sectors you can kind of get yourself involved in, just because, it might not feel like getting a lot of no's, kind of like telemarketing, like getting a lot of no's. It's just, I don't know if I can imagine just like physical therapy or something else. That's where it's a hard on your heart, hard on your positivity, like being a shining light in that kind of realm. Like that's even more impressive to me, that a person can stay in that long, do it that long with that much passion and have that much of a difference. But if you think about it, if you can break through that barrier of like self-doubt or of hearing a lot of no's and really just learn how to, like him, he's self-branded. Like you follow that guy more than you follow maybe the causes, because you just like how he is. So maybe start thinking about that. If that's something that's in your heart and your passion, where you're not like asking for something, you're attracting people to something, and building a brand and having that kind of energy and just being that kind of person that attracts people to good causes and to other good people, that maybe you will have success in this. And look, now you have a resource. You got him, Do Better Good Consulting. I mean, to me, like if I ever have to do a nonprofit fundraise of some kind, he's the first person I'm going to call. And hopefully he's the first person you're going to call. So hopefully somebody out there watching this now or even later, if you have that kind of situation where you have a nonprofit is struggling, reach out to the guy. I mean, look, he told you everything, and you got a good sense of his personality. I'm pretty sure he would teach you and your organization how to, do better good. That's what that stands for. So that's it. Enough about me and Patrick and this whole show. I have a house full of people downstairs I got to get back to, and there's a party going on. It's not in my honor, but I'm definitely going to go throw back a couple drinks because tomorrow the kids got off. So might as well go do that. So until then, take care, comb your hair, and I'll see you on the next one. Daddy out.